Boa noite a todos, sejam bem-vindos no Hangout da Gazeta Central, 23 horas e 22 minutos, no dia 21 de dezembro de 2016. Temperatura agradável. Estamos com 28 graus em Guarulhos neste momento. Tá calor, né? Mas é assim mesmo. O tema do nosso Hangout de hoje é referente: não acredite no Estado. Ele pode estar te enganando, né? E é verdade. Porque se não fosse assim, a Câmara dos Vereadores não aumentaria os salários aqui em São Paulo, o governo não gastaria dinheiro, um controle de déficit de bilhões e bilhões de reais, que supostamente tiraria o país de uma crise financeira. Eu, particularmente, não acredito em crise. O que eu acredito é uma possibilidade de um deslavanco comercial, porque muitas pessoas dependem do Estado para poder sobreviver. E quando nós dependemos do Estado para poder sobreviver com programas sociais e habitacionais, o ser humano não consegue mais produzir absolutamente nada. É sinal que é escravo do sistema chamado o Estado. Não sei se vocês observaram isso, mas no decorrer das semanas, diante de tantas denúncias que houve, diante da PEC 244, 241, da PEC 55 e tantas outras barganhas políticas no Senado, no Congresso, na Câmara dos Deputados, nas assembleias legislativas, como o caso do Rio de Janeiro, de Minas Gerais e também de São Paulo, como é o caso do Rio Grande do Sul, eu fiquei pensando, será que o Brasil realmente está numa crise caótica financeira? Será que nós estamos pior que na Venezuela? Eu tirei essa conclusão que não. O povo aprendeu a controlar o dinheiro que está acontecendo no país. Por que será que o povo aprendeu a controlar o dinheiro? Basta entender o seguinte: todo poder emana do povo, não é verdade? Se todo poder emana do povo, qual é o maior poder que um povo pode fazer virar uma grande intervenção no país? É justamente a economia. Então, o povo percebeu que ele estava sendo lesado, ele estava sendo roubado, né? Como que de repente começou a surgir 2 bilhões, 5 bilhões, 12 bilhões, 20 bilhões? De repente, a Odebrecht abriu a torneira financeira. De repente, a Operação Lava Jato começou a encostar os corruptos na parede. A Globo fez uma reportagem na 25 de março, juntamente com um demente, falando sobre a questão comercial da 25 de março. 25 de março, senhores, termômetro da economia de São Paulo. Não só para as pessoas que trabalham individualmente, como também para o comércio. É na 25 de março que você compara as coisas que estão ocorrendo no país. Quando eu vi a reportagem da 25 de março, eu fui pessoalmente lá. Um só escadente. Mais de 36 graus de temperatura, isso ontem. Antes de cair um toró em São Paulo. E eu observei formigueiros de pessoas. Mas um formigueiro de pessoas insuportável. Em contrapartida, eu pedi para uma pessoa ir para mim na rua Dom Pedro II, em Guarulhos. O que é engraçado, que se repetiu a mesma coisa no mesmo horário. Eu falei, não, peraí. Esse, esse governo, ou ele está sendo iludido pelos seus assessores, ou realmente o governo é um panaca de primeira marca maior. Aí eu pedi para outros colegas meus passarem no Shopping Internacional de Guarulhos e mais formigueiro. Para confirmar, passei no Shopping Center daqui de São Paulo. Não, pedi para mim no Shopping Center de São Paulo. Outro formigueiro. Eu pensei comigo, peraí. Se existe formigueiro na 25 de março, existe formigueiro na rua Dom Pedro II, existe nos shoppings, então o povo aprendeu a economizar. O povo aprendeu a valorizar o seu dinheiro. Não vamos aqui confundir com desemprego. O desemprego está alto, sim. Vários fatores ajudaram o desemprego neste país. Entre eles, a grande taxa de juros de mercado, que sufocou os empresários, justamente aqueles que dão emprego para as pessoas. E as taxas burocráticas do governo federal. Quando o PT assumiu a presidência da República, ele queria ser o pai da salvação. Aplicar exatamente a figura paternal que Getúlio Vargas fez quando criou a CLT. Ah, Renato, mas é direito dos trabalhadores. Bom, se é direito dos trabalhadores, se do princípio que os trabalhadores têm deveres de produzir sem reclamar. E se não for o direito dos trabalhadores? E se for apenas o socialismo que já estava sendo infiltrado no Brasil? Né? Então, o país está nessa situação hoje. Por quê? Porque ficou dependente de um sistema de governo falido. Apenas isso. O governo é falido em si. O governo não tem dinheiro para bancar a altas custas para sustentar. É como se fosse um pai e uma mãe sustentando um filho de 40, de 50, de 70 anos. Ah, Renato, mas você está falando dos direitos adquiridos. Não. Eu estou falando que a população acordou em si. Ela viu que o dinheiro não estava sendo bem repassados para a sociedade, para os brasileiros em si, mas sim para os políticos roubarem à vontade. Veja o exemplo da Câmara Municipal de de São Paulo, que aumentou o salário dos pobres vereadores, mendiguentos e fedorentos, de 18 mil, de 16 mil para 18 mil, quase uma porcentagem de 19 mil reais. Você. Se fosse assim, o Senado tomaria vergonha na cara, ao invés de passar um projeto que nem sequer foi lido nas teles de comunicação. Como que você pode me explicar que o projeto das teles passou. Então, nós temos dinheiro no caixa. Como vocês podem me explicar que bilhões e bilhões de dólares estão começando a aparecer no Brasil? Agora, não é justo nós pagarmos uma conta que não é nossa. Boa noite a todos. Esse é o Jornal da Gazeta Central. Mostrar a realidade para você. Bom, mediante disso, eu vou passar um vídeo pequenininho aqui de 29 minutos. Ficar muito tempo aqui. Vocês vão ver o vídeo. Depois a gente comenta sobre ele, eu acredito. Está em inglês, mas está legendado, tá? O tema é The Biggest Sky Eine Story I Worked a Rewards They Fail.
You are about to learn one of the biggest secrets in the history. It's a secret that has huge effects for who lives on this planet. Most people can feel deep down that something isn't quite right with the world economy, but few know what is. Gone are the days where a family can survive on just one paycheck. Every day it seems things are more and more, yet only 1 in a million understand why. You are about to discover the system that is ultimately responsible for most of the inequality in our world today. The powers that be do know about this, as this system is what has kept them at the top of the financial food chain for the last 100 years. Learning this will change your life because of the choices that you make. It'll change the world because it'll change the system. For this is the biggest hidden secret of money. In history of so many, so few, and it's all accomplished through this in the history of mankind.
Quando você começar a crescer os fatos, você vai começar a perceber enganado. Enganado pelas grandes mídias, enganado pelo governo federal, porque isso é uma roda que está girando no mundo inteiro. Aí você vai entender aonde foi parar os trilhões de dólares do Brasil. Você vai entender muito mais ainda como funcionam os bastidores da corrupção. Como eles querem controlar a sua, a minha e a nossa vida. Bom vídeo.
They say that money doesn't grow on trees, but the truth is that the modern banking system creates currency far. Most people don't have a clue how currency is created. Bankers make it sound so complex that people think it. But I'm going to strip our monetary system down to its essence so that you can see the scam behind the curtain and just how it affects you. Every modern society creates currency in pretty much the same way. But since the US dollar is the majority of the world's currency, I'm going to use the United States as our example. It all starts when some politician says, vote for me and I'll make sure the government provides you more free stuff than my opponent will. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. So to provide that supposedly free stuff, the politicians vote for the country to spend more than its income. To pay for that deficit spending, the Treasury borrows currency by issuing a bond. So what's a bond? A bond is really nothing but a glorified IOU. It's a pretty piece of paper with numbers printed on it that says, Loan me $1 trillion today, and I promise over a 10-year pay you. To understand is that Treasury bonds are our national debt. IOUs are to be paid back by you and I and our descendants through future. Therefore, when the government issues a bond, prosperity out of the Treasury auction, and the world's largest banks to buy that and make a profit on it by earning interest. Move through this process, taking a cut every step of the way, as you'll see shortly. Through a shell game called open market operations, the banks get to sell to the Federal Reserve at a profit. To pay for the bonds, the Federal Reserve opens up its big old checkbook. Bad, bogus, counterfeit checks that should bounce because they're drawn on an account that always has a zero balance. There isn't one penny in there. To quote from the Boston Federal Reserve, when there must be sufficient funds in our account to cover that check. The Reserve writes a check, there is no bank deposit on which that check is drawn. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is created. The Fed then hands those checks to the banks, and at this point, currency springs into existence. That currency, and buy more bonds at the next Treasury auction. A check. A check is also, when you write a check, you're making a note that says, here's my IOU for cash. All you have to do is go to the bank and pick it up. Now, it's very, very important that you understand this process. The devastating effect this has on you. The Treasury issues IOUs, bonds. The banks then buy those IOUs with currency. The Federal Reserve then writes IOUs, checks, and hands them to the banks in exchange the bonds. And currency is, so what's really happening is the Federal Reserve and the Treasury are just swapping IOUs, using the banks as middlemen, and abracadabra, presto, currency magically springs into existence. It repeats over and over again, enriching the banks and indebting the public by raising the national debt. The end result is that there's a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury. This process is also where all comes from. The Federal Reserve and the government mistakenly call it base money because they didn't watch episode 1 of this series of the difference between money and currency. But I will correctly refer to it as base currency because it is not money. It is currency, and as we've learned, there is a big difference. Money has to be to maintain its purchasing power over long periods of time. Episode 1 that earlier in our history, our paper currency was just a claim check. Presentation of intrinsic value, the gold and silver that was held on deposit. You could walk into any bank and slap your currency, like say a $20 bill on the counter, and with money, the gold piece. Here is really nothing but a receipt on an IOU, that bond. So it's really nothing but a supply of numbers. The Treasury then deposits currency into the various branches of the government. Say, hey, thanks. And the government does some deficit spending on public works, social programs, and war. The government employees, contractors, and soldiers then deposit their pay in the banks. Now, this may come as a shock to you. Currency with the bank, you're not actually depositing it into an account to be safely held in trust for you. Instead, you're actually loaning the bank your currency, and within certain legal limits, they can do with it pretty much anything they please. This includes gambling in the stock market and loaning it out at a profit, of course. The machine of currency creation really gets cranking, because this is where something called fractional reserve lending comes in. Fractional reserve lending is exactly what it says. The banks are allowed to reserve only a fraction of your deposit and loan the rest out. Ratios may vary. I'm going to use a 10% reserve ratio as our example. $100 in your account. The bank can legally take $90 of it and loan it out without telling you. Hold $10 of your deposit in reserve just in case you want. These reserves are called vault cash. But why does your bank account still say you have $100 of the bank dollars of it? Because the bank left IOUs it created called bank credit in its place. Crazy, but here it is in black and white from the Fed. Commercial banks create checkbook money when they grant a loan simply by adding new deposit dollars in accounts in exchange for a borrower's IOU. Numbers that the banks type into their computers. And even though these bank credit IOU numbers are very different from base currency numbers existing in computers, they are still currency. So now there is $190. Now, the reason people take out loans from the banks is to buy something. They're going to buy a house or a car or something like that. The $90 that the bank loaned to him from your account, and he pays the seller of the item. But then the seller deposits that currency into his account, and his bank loans out 90% of that and leaves bank credit numbers in its place. So now there's $271 in existence. This process repeats and repeats until under a 10% reserve ratio, an initial deposit of just $100 can create up to $1,000 of bank credit, all backed by $100. As I said, reserve ratio is very wild. Some percent it's 3%, and on some forms, reserve requirements are 0. The result is that the expansion of the currency supply by the banks is greater than needed. So once again, when currency is deposited in the banks get to lend it out, and then it gets redeposited and relent, redeposited and relent, redeposited and relent over and over again, creating bank credit all the way. This is where the vast majority of our currency supply comes from. 92 to 96% of all currency in existence is created not by the government. Now, currency spewing into society may have an idea. That is, until you important hidden secrets of money from episode 1, that the prices of everyday goods and services act as a sponge on an expanding currency supply. The more currency, the prices rise. This is where inflation comes from. The true definition of inflation is an expansion of the currency supply. Rising prices are merely the symptom. So our entire currency supply is nothing but a couple of bucks whipped up in this hocus-pocus scam where the Treasury and the Federal Reserve swap glorified IOUs and a bunch of numbers that the banks just type into their computers. That's it. That's our entire currency supply. It's numbers. Some of them printed, most of them typed, and there is nothing else. But if you thought that was crazy, get ready to enter the twilight zone of modern economics. We work for some of that currency supply. True wealth is your time, but we trade away moments, hour by hour, day, for numbers on pieces of paper or just typed into a computer. Now those numbers represent our blood, sweat, tears, labor, gives the currency its value. The really cool joke. We work hard so that we can save some of that currency, so that we can pay the tax collector in the United States, it's known as the IRS. They then turn it over to the Treasury so that the Treasury can pay the principal plus interest on a check drawn on an account that has nothing in it.
O que está acontecendo, senhores, para vocês terem uma ideia, de comunismo, não se trata de socialismo, não se trata de democracia. Para eles, o que se trata é fazer você virar escravo, tanto na Rússia, na China, na Coreia do Norte, na Coreia do Sul, no Brasil, caindo para São Paulo, na Venezuela. O caso da Venezuela é um clássico de exemplo que está ocorrendo. Não adianta culpar Nicolás Maduro, Dilma Rousseff, Michel Temer pelo fracasso do socialismo, do capitalismo ou do comunismo. Não se trata, senhores, de ficar sendo enganados pela mídia de grande porte, porque eles ganham em cima disso, ganham bilhões. Quando você assiste um telejornal, você é medido por números, você é medido por frequência. Eles sabem qual é a casa que está assistindo, porque você paga por esse serviço. Não tem nada gratuito, nada gratuito. Muitas pessoas publicaram aí nas redes sociais sobre a questão, bilhões de dólares das teles. Não. Não é perdoar bilhões das teles. São os bilhões que os senhores vão devolver para elas. Os senhores, escravos do sistema econômico, vocês é que vão devolver para elas. E vocês vão pagar por isso. Vocês vão trabalhar muito mais que isso. Quando se fala da Odebrecht, dos escândalos, da repatriação do dinheiro, é tudo mentira. Vocês estão sendo lesados pelo o sistema financeiro. Não importa se você é comunista, se você é socialista, se você é democrático, você é um escravo. Eu sou tal. Você não é nada, você é um lixo. Você e eu somos lixo do mundo financeiro, das mais obscuras porão. Será que agora você entendeu o que está ocorrendo no Brasil? Vai acontecer. Eu estou passando esse vídeo, senhores, porque o sistema financeiro dos Estados Unidos está quebrado. Está quebrado. Você está achando que é só no Brasil, que é só na Venezuela? Não, não. Ficou no subjugo dos democratas, dos republicanos. Do mesmo jeito que a Venezuela está de subjugo do Nicolás Maduro, do Fidel Castro lá em Cuba, hoje Raul Castro, do Papa Francisco. Você é subjugo do Papa Francisco. Você é escravo do Edir Macedo. Ele faz de você um bonequinho de marionete. Ele faz de você um escravo do poder financeiro. Eu sou escravo do poder financeiro. Todos os jornalistas, todos os apresentadores, presidentes da OAB, Congresso, Senado, Câmara dos Deputados, Câmara de Vereadores, governadores do Estado, municípios, são escravos do financeiro. Eles controlam tudo, é eles que fazem o que vai dar certo e o que não vai dar. São os pequenos mini deuses detectorianos. São eles, senhores. Você está ficando doido. Pode ser, pode ser. Assim como esse cidadão que está falando para vocês também. Mas a verdade tem que ser nua e crua. Nunca acredite no Estado, porque o próprio Estado é escravo do sistema financeiro. São eles que editam as regras. São eles. João Dória como prefeito de São Paulo, Guti como prefeito de Guarulhos. Seu voto é lixo. Seu voto é um papel que você vai passar na sua bunda, desculpa a expressão. Não adianta de nada. Renato, mas todo o poder emana do povo. Palhaço. Palhaço. Por quê? O povo não manda em nada, a não ser no sistema financeiro. Aí que eu quero chegar. Todo o poder emana do povo, sim, no sistema financeiro. Mas certa vez um professor meu da universidade falou: o dia que o povo despertar, as coisas mudarão de figura. Porque o que rege a sua vida, meu caro aluno, você pode ser marxista, você pode ser qualquer tipo de comunista. Quem manda na economia da Rússia é o sistema financeiro. Quem manda na economia da China é o sistema financeiro. Quem manda na economia da Coreia do Norte é o sistema financeiro. Quem manda nessa porcaria da economia do Brasil é o sistema financeiro. Quem manda no Vaticano, sistema financeiro. Quem manda na Venezuela, sistema financeiro. Aquela moeda, eles trocam a moeda. Eu já disse uma vez aqui, governador, presidente, deputado federal, deputado estadual, senadores, Supremo Tribunal Federal, seja o diabo que seja, é apenas boneco de cavalo de Troia deles. Apenas isso. Não muda nada. O sistema financeiro é o que escraviza você e usa o Estado para te enganar. Mas de que maneira, Renato? Te enganar com Bolsa Família? Te enganar com o ProUni? Te enganar com a FIES? Te enganar com o fundo de garantia? Por que o governo quer liberar o fundo de garantia? Acorda, pelo amor de Deus. Te enganar com o pacotaço de boa vontade? Ou você acha que isso vai resolver o problema financeiro do país? De outros anos. Nada não passa uma caneta sequer sem autorização do sistema financeiro. A tua conta, se você não sabe, bancária lá, que a empresa deposita a merreca do teu salário miserável para você ficar por 30 dias como escravo do sistema financeiro, 24 horas antes de ser depositado, sistema financeiro geral. Lá eles rendem juros em cima de juros. Tira o empréstimo, retorna e retorna de novo com papel podre. O que está acontecendo no Brasil, senhor Renato? O que está acontecendo no Brasil? Essas corrupções de hoje aí é o dinheiro de papel podre que foi desviado do sistema financeiro brasileiro para o sistema financeiro mundial. O BRICS é um deles. O BRICS fez união com o Banco Central dos Estados Unidos. Enquanto você fica lutando por ideologia bestiais, o BRICS está te escravizando a cada segundo que passa, graças ao Banco Central norte-americano. A Rússia se uniu com o sistema financeiro americano. A China se uniu com o sistema financeiro americano. E você é um escravo idiotizado. Por isso que você precisa da Bolsa Família. Por isso que você precisa do INSS. Eu vou me aposentar com 35 anos. Os quintos do inferno. Você vai se aposentar lá. Para de ser burro. Para de ser idiotizados, pelo amor de Deus. Vocês estão sendo enganados pelo Estado, porque o Estado é dominado pelo sistema financeiro. E ficou provado isso no governo Dilma Rousseff. Está sendo provado isso agora no Michel Temer. Provado isso no governo futuro de São Paulo, João Dória, que é um bundão. Porque nenhum político vai arriscar o seu pescoço para salvar a população. Nenhum deles. A trajetória que o Hugo Chávez seguiu, que Lula seguiu, Dilma seguiu, querem seguir, eles mesmos dão um fim. Eles mesmos mandam matar. É uma norma internacional. Mas você quer ficar assistindo o programinha da Xuxa, você quer ficar assistindo jornalzinho da Globo, jornalzinho da Record. Estão nem aí com você, meu camarada. Sua família e nem com seus filhos que vão passar fome. Fome? Vai vir um controle da ordem mundial em questão de alimentação. E vocês estão dormindo. Esperando o quê? Um general do exército levantar para cima e gritar: independência ou vida. Continua sendo idiotizados. Vocês estão de parabéns. Está na Avenida Paulista, fechamos, tocamos fogo. O problema é teu. O problema é teu. Ainda mais idiotizado aí é burro, ignorante, estúpido. Você não aceitou ainda, mas você é um escravo. É um escravo do sistema financeiro. E quando eu falo sistema financeiro, não é o sistema financeiro do Brasil. Quem é o presidente do Banco Central brasileiro, meu povo? É um judeu. Você sabe qual é a linhagem da família dele? Quem é o dono da maior indústria judaica do país, localizada aqui no Brasil? Não vou falar o nome, não, vocês vão ter que descobrir. Ah, é o Silvio Santos. Tu é burro mesmo. Ah, Renato, isso daí é teoria de conspiração. Ah, você acha que é teoria de conspiração? Você acha? Parabéns. Continuando o vídeo.
Now let's do a recap on this section because this is where the system begins to rob you and I on a massive scale. Much of our taxes are not used for schools, roads, and public services, but to pay interest on bonds that the Federal Reserve bought with a check drawn in an account that has nothing in it. The Federal Reserve is committing fraud. But here's one of the biggest secrets of them all. Before the establishment of the Federal Reserve, there was no need for personal income tax. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913, and that very same year, the Constitution was amended to allow income tax. Do you really think this was just a coincidence? Ask yourself how much income tax you've paid over your lifetime. Much of it has has owners. Who they are is an even bigger secret that we'll get to shortly. But first, we need to understand the mumbo-jumbo of the so-called debt ceiling. On a huge paradox. Interest. And there was interest due on every one of those loans that the banks made. That means that there is interest due on every dollar in existence. Let me ask you something. If you borrow the very first dollar into existence, and that's the only dollar that exists on the planet, pay it back plus another dollar's worth of interest, the second interest. The answer is that you have to borrow existence and promise to pay it as well. Well, there are $2 in existence, and so on. The result is there's never enough currency, always more debt in the system than there is currency in existence to. Therefore, the system is impossible. It is finite. One day. What would happen if the government stopped borrowing to do deficit spending? Are the payments on those treasury bonds going to stop? What would happen if the public stopped borrowing and going deeper into debt? Are your house and car payments going to stop? No. There is a payment due every month on the principal plus the interest on every dollar in existence, and those payments do not stop. If we stop borrowing, then no new currency is created to replace the currency that we used to make those payments. Whether a loan or paying tax to make a payment on a bond, the payment that goes to pay off the principal is that portion of the debt. But the debt also extinguishes the currency, like matter and air. When they meet, they annihilate each other. If we just pay off the principal only on all the loans and bonds that exist, the entire currency supply just vanishes. So debt every year, look what happens. The whole thing goes into a deflationary collapse under the weight of those payments. Politicians and pundits alike talk about balancing the budget and living within our means. They don't understand that that is deflationary. Current monetary system without collapsing the whole economy. Think of a debt ceiling ridiculous. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt just to continue. And politicians will always kick the can down the road and raise this so-called debt ceiling over and over again. The system finally collapses under its own weight. In other words, they on their watch. The United States knew the dangers of central banking and fought to free themselves from this very thing. The Revolutionary War started out as a tax, but now we must pay tax just to have a monetary system. Having just inflation of the continental dollar, which was printed into oblivion in the Revolutionary War, they under the fiat currency and debt-based monetary system. So to protect future generations from instant, they wrote into the Constitution that only can be money for the simple fact that you can't print them. Our current system is not only unconstitutional, but it robs us of the liberty and prosperity our forefathers fought and died for. All feel the effects of ignoring the Constitution right now. By forcing more currency into circulation, our purchasing power is done. Inflation is a slow and insidious stealth tax that is simply the result of this debt-based monetary system. Powers and benefits those who create the currency and receive it first, as they get to spend it into circulation before the economy. They're stealing purchasing power from you and transferring it to the banks and the government of everyday false monetary system. And it's not like the people at the top don't know this. To quote the Federal Reserve, the decrease in purchasing power incurred by the holders of money due to inflation gains to the issuers of money. This is a fraud. It is a pyramid scheme. It is a Ponzi scheme. It's a scam, and it's a lie. Our entire monetary system is nothing but a form of legalized theft. But here's the biggest con job of them all. The Federal Reserve is not federal. It has stockholders. There is no federal agency that has stockholders. A share of stock represents a percentage of
Ocorre com o Banco Central norte-americano, senhores, ocorre com o Banco Central brasileiro. Enganando os senhores com a história que o Banco Central brasileiro ser individual ou separado. Precisa. Ele é como qualquer outro banco privado. Ele tem acionistas. Ele é uma corporação. Por isso que o sistema do Brasil está quebrado. O mesmo acontece com os Estados Unidos. Não é?
Stockholders are the owners of that corporation. Therefore, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation with owners. And you can see it for yourself if you go to the Federal Reserve's website, and it will say the stockholder dividend of 6%. And the Federal Reserve was originally issued to the largest banks in the United States. Mergers and acquisitions through the years, you can't actually trace who owns the stock in the Federal Reserve. That's a very closely guarded secret. My guess would be the primary dealers, the banks that get to make a profit by selling part of our national debt, those bonds, to the Federal Reserve, who buys them with a check from nothing. Then we pay tax to pay the principal on those bonds so that the Federal Reserve can pay the banks a 6% dividend. You don't quite comprehend the deception of this system at first glance. Very few people do. It is purposely complex. By this means, government may secretly and unobserved confiscate the wealth of the people. Man in a million will detect the theft. I believe that presented correctly, anyone can understand this system, regardless of how complex it is. So let's do a recap and break it down even more. The way the system works is that the government creates glorified IOUs, increase our national debt, and put the public on the hook to pay it back. Step 2, to create currency. The Treasury sells the bonds to the banks. The banks then turn around and sell our national debt at a profit to the Federal Reserve, which they probably own. The Federal Reserve, the book that doesn't have a penny in it, and buys those IOUs with IOUs that it writes, checks, on a checking account that has a zero balance. Checks to the banks, and currency just splits. Process repeats. This results in a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury, which is really just the Treasury then deposits the numbers in the various branches of the government, and we get to step 3. The government spends the numbers on promises, public works, social programs, and war. Then the government employees, contractors, and soldiers deposit their pay into the banks, and we get to step 4. Multiply the numbers by magically inventing more IOUs through fractional reserve lending, where they steal a portion of everyone's deposit and lend it out. That currency gets, and then a portion is stolen again. And the process repeats over and over, magnifying the currency supply exponentially. Then we work for some of those numbers, which brings us to step 5, where our numbers are taxed. We pay tax to the IRS, who then turns our numbers over to the Treasury, so the Treasury can pay the principal plus the interest on bonds that were purchased by the Federal Reserve with a check from nothing. Then we get to step 6, the debt ceiling delusion. The system is designed to require ever-increasing levels of debt and will eventually collapse under its own weight because politicians always kick the can down the road. They don't want it to collapse on their watch. And finally, step 7, take their cut. The world's largest banks own the Federal Reserve. Those banks make a profit selling our national debt. They make a profit when the Fed pays them interest on the reserves held at the Fed, and the Fed pays them a 6% dividend on their ownership of the Fed. It is fundamentally evil. It funnels wealth from the working population, banking sector. It is the cause of the artificial booms and busts of modern economies, and it causes great disparity of wealth between the rich and the working class. And it is only possible because we no longer use real money, we use currency. But worst of all, enslavement. Bond is the root word of bondage. If the government issues a bond, it is a promise to make us pay tax in the future. Nobody asked you if you wanted to pay tax today for the prosperity we all enjoyed in the last century. Nobody is asking our children to pay for the prosperity we're enjoying now. George Washington once wrote to James Madison, has the right to contract debts greater than can be paid off of its own existence. By stealing prosperity from tomorrow so we can spend it today, we enslave and future generations. Now, this all sounds pretty bad, but there is great hope. For you are the greatest threat to this false monetary system. This system relies on the public being ignorant of its workings. Please share this knowledge with everyone you know, because that fully understands the system can build a better future for generations. And now I leave you with this quote, widely attributed to a former director of the Bank of England. The modern banking system manufactures money out of nothing. The process is perhaps the most astounding piece of sleight of hand that was ever invented. It was conceived in inequity and born in sin. Take it away from them, create money and control credit, and with the flick of a pen, they will create enough money to buy it back again. But if you want to continue as the slaves of bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, let them continue to create money and to control credit. This is the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C. It's located on Constitution Street. It's just as much of a joke as the New York Fed being located on Liberty Street. Both of them are unconstitutional, liberty, and they transfer wealth away from us every second of every day to the Federal Reserve, to the government, and to the banking sector. You are now among the 1 in a million who can detect the theft of your prosperity. So the big question is, what can you do about it? Watch this video until you can describe and teach it to others. Those who understand this system can make preparations for its unavoidable collapse and protect themselves. History shows will probably be wiped out. Share this video with everyone, especially those you care about. All it takes is a mouse click or two to get this message in front of millions. Post this video on Facebook, tweet it to loved ones. Please share it wherever you can. Join the conversation. The current world monetary system is based on a 300-year-old design meant to enrich a few at the expense of the many. A better way. At hiddensecretsofmoney.com, we've created an open source platform for the design and development of a new world monetary system. We're calling on every student, every college, every bright mind, and anyone who cares to join the discussion. In educating ourselves and each other, we can prevent the further loss of our freedoms and maybe, just maybe, win some of them back.
Essa é a situação em qual nós brasileiros estamos hoje. Somos escravos do sistema econômico. E não importa se comunista, socialista ou democrata.
You're so for it. It's very beneficial, very helpful. It's going to introduce these ideas to a lot of people. And like I've just been talking about, we have to change people's mind. And the more they understand it, the better. And I think we're at this point now where more people in the last several years, 4 or 5 years, have thought about the Fed than they ever have in the previous 95 years. So I think an explanation and diagrams to show it is very helpful, because quite frankly, they're not going to get it in their grade school. They're not going to get it in their high schools. They're not going to get it at college unless they're in a very rare circumstance to understand how this works.
You know, for years before I got involved in gold and some of the things I write and talk about today, I was a monetary economist for decades. You know, in your video, you talk about the primary dealers. I was chief counsel and chief credit officer of one of the largest primary dealers for 10 years. So I had an inside seat on the treasury market and had the privilege of working with several governors, Mamie Johnson David Mullins, going back to the 80s and 90s. So I'm very immersed in what you were talking about. I thought it was extremely accurate, extremely clear. I didn't think you were stretching on any points. It was really like something out of the set that it was very easy to understand. I think it's accessible. I think we're seeing a little bit of a revolution in communicating sense. You know, as you pointed out, the Fed was created in 1913. Well, in 1913, there was no web, there was no YouTube, no Twitter. There was really no one to kind of oppose the Fed or call them out, if you will, or really get into a discussion that everyday Americans could follow. That's not true now with social media and everything else. You can reach out to millions and tens of millions of people and tell them what's going on. I think you've done that. You've done it successfully. I applaud it. I think this is a great video. I look forward to seeing it again. I know millions of people will enjoy it.
The Federal Reserve believes it can create money out of thin air, not realize money is supposed to represent real products and services. And what people don't realize is when the Fed does that, in effect, as Keynes pointed out, it's a form of taxation. And because people don't see it, the politicos undermines social trust. It just is corrosive throughout society. Turmoil in the coming years, but it's going to be the kind of turmoil that leads to positive things. Don't despair. Get out there and fight, because the tide is going to turn. Latest last stand.
Thank you. Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money was brought to you by goldsilver.com. This round, to learn how to protect your family and turn the coming economic storms into opportunity, visit goldsilver.com.
Obrigado ao pessoal. Luiz Silva, obrigado. Obrigado a Max Prosperi. Obrigado ao goldsilver.com. Esse vídeo é muito importante para que o brasileiro saia dessa história de idiotice, de que um gamer vai fazer algo diferente do país. Não se engane. Tudo isso para te escravizar. Simplesmente você é um escravo do sistema financeiro. Era só isso, pessoal. Fique com Deus, não vou prolongar muito. Eu creio que esse vídeo que eu consegui, hoje está no YouTube, mas eu consegui antes disso. Eu já tinha ele preparado. Obrigado a todos. Fique com Deus. Uma boa noite.